Good afternoon everybody, and a very warm welcome to Mildenhall and Digitrax. And my name is Susanna and I live with trains. And today I have a layout update for you. But before we start on that, I just wanted to take a moment of my time to thank everybody who commented on my previous video when I went to visit my friend Nigel at Cotton End. I've spoken to him since. He's very grateful for the work that I've done, and he's also you just have to bear with him for him to get his bearings in order to contact you guys, but hopefully he will be doing that in due course to answer some of the comments that you guys have kindly put up on that video. Now, it occurred to me afterwards that we'd been running the two Pullmans over at his place. Those of you who've seen that last video, that was the old Midland Pullman and the HST version of the Midland Pullman or Blue Pullman. And it occurred to me that I have my own version of the Blue Pullman, which I do. And so I've suggested to Nigel that on my next visit that I would take my own Blue Pullman down there and have a bit of a running session with all three running. And that is the video, that is the Blue Pullman that you've seen in the thumbnail, which Hornby did as a train set some time ago. And here is the Blue 47. So this is the local hold version. This is basically essentially a Lima version, but it does have an 8-pin chip and it does have sound. So, you know, it's be able to run and hold its own. And it's got some lovely Mark II coaches to pull with it. So that's just one of them. And I've got about 6 coaches, I think it is, that I have to run with it, 6 or 7 coaches to run with it. So that will make a nice rake alongside his HST and his old Midland Pullman set. So what else can I talk to you on the layout about? Well, there's some new signage. One of the new signage is just this one here. There was always one here, but some of you may have noticed during my previous videos that it had gone missing. That was because this needed to be resanded and painted, and also the actual sign itself was a little bit worn. So I wanted to replace it with some new signs. So I've got some new ones, and I've also got the major banner ones that I was like really looking forward to putting onto the layout. And I think it's just made it an absolute huge difference to the layout. It's really sort of finished. It's the actual fascia board part is nearly done. It's not too far off done. One of the things I want to get done is I want to get a flip can holder that I can just screw to the side of the fascia. So if somebody comes over to help me and they want to have a drink, then they've got somewhere to put a can or a bottle, so that they can just, so it's not on the layout, it's just actually a part of the layout fascia. And this is, again, it's not exactly model railway related at all, but it's just to make life more comfortable and pleasant, that if you have friends round and they are operating the layout with me or helping me out, that they not only have got a place to sit, they've got a place to operate and have a place to put their drink. So something new that's turned up this week onto the layout is, bear with me if you're a non-Digitrax user, this is a UP5. So I'm just doing this freehand at the moment, just so I can get around the back at the moment. So this is a UP5, so many of you will be familiar with this. And this has been superseded by a UP7, which has arrived on the layout, because they don't actually make these anymore. These are discontinued. And it's essentially it's the same, but there are some differences. For example, that this panel here doesn't have, the UP7 doesn't have these 2 screws, because this panel is screwed to the actual circuit board via these 2 screws. And then after you screw it to your fascia via these 4 screws. But the main difference is at the back, because this hole that comes at the back is slightly different than on the UP7. You actually need a much larger hole to fit this flush on the new UP7, which I'll show you. So if you take a look at this here, the hole is quite small, it's just a small rectangular. But on the new UP7, you basically have to make a bigger hole for it to sit flush, but essentially it's the same thing. This is the new UP7, which is the replacement for the UP5, which I've just showed you. And basically you don't have the two screws like you do on the other one, and the circuit board basically slides into the faceplate, and then you screw it through the tabs underneath. And also, if you look at this is the template you use, or that I cut out. You don't actually get this template, but I made this template. And basically you need to cut out this hole in the fascia in order to slide this in and fit this in flush with the panel here at the back. Now, that is something that on the old panel, you'd only be cutting out, say, I think about a small fraction of that. You'd only be cutting like a rectangle like that and it would slide in. So on this new one, essentially it's exactly the same as the old one, but the actual fascia and the way you install it is ever so slightly different. I think the price is more or less the same. It cost me just under £20 from Kevin over at Coastal DCC. But this is a way of being able to fit one of these in so I can have trains running at the front of the layout. We will come back to this in a little while. So the biggest change and the most noticeable change is the fact that I've got my banners for my fascia board. And as you can see, it quite clearly says in big bold letters, Mildenhall and Digitrax. Now that arrived yesterday, and I fitted it all yesterday. So I'm really pleased with it, and it looks absolutely fabulous. And I think it just kind of finishes off the kind of fascia board and what I wanted to do with it. I've also done a lot more fascia work over on the other side as well, as I'm getting ready to try and do some operations like I was helping out with the sort of thing I was doing over at Nigel's, where we're just friends just getting together, having a play about and enjoying a mutual hobby. So over here, we've got the big Southwest Trains banner. And I'm so pleased with the work that Tanya has done for me. She's done a cracking job. It's exactly what I wanted, and I'm so pleased. It gives the layout an identity, and it just breaks up the fascia board so it's not totally bland in just one colour, although I think the blue is pretty striking. And as you can see, that the Digitrax panel is over here to the left. And the reason why I've put it over here is, as I've said before, this part of the layout, if I just bring it back a bit so you can see it, is removable and pulls out, and the join is basically where the end of that banner is, just over there. Now, the actual power unit that powers the whole layout is actually underneath behind the curtain. Now what happened is that I had my controller plugged into the power unit at the back, and then when I had it sort of resting on the cradle, the cable was actually pulling the curtain apart. So it was basically doing this. If I just show you, it was just kind of pulling that. So then it made it look untidy because the cable was forcing the curtain to go like that. So I didn't like that, I didn't want that. So what I've done is I've basically run the cable from the power pack and run it along the top. So basically above the line of the curtain, and connected it to the UP5 here. This basically allows me to plug in my controller that's currently sitting here over there. Now, some of you might be thinking to yourselves, why have you put it over there? Why don't you just put that over here? Now, like I said, the reason being is because this part of the layout on the right hand side is removable. I wanted to minimize the amount of cables and the amount of time that it was going to take me to separate this part of the board. So basically this part of the layout is a self-contained unit. So but all it is it's bolted with 2 bolts either side from one to the other, and also 2 plugs, 2 quick release plugs. So basically, once I've unplugged the 2 plugs and the 2 bolts, the whole unit will be separated quite easily. So that's why I just wanted to minimize the wiring between this part and this part, and that will facilitate me removing this area a lot more quicker without me disturbing any of the wiring. And the other thing is by having the wiring all permanently on this side means that I can attach it to the back, tidy up all the cables at the back without them hanging loose, because I needed to be able to remove them and move them. So now this way, this is just permanently, the wiring's permanently behind there. It's not going anywhere, so I can permanently attach it and tidy it up, rather than having a cable which connects from this part to this part, which has to be kept loose. So I can disconnect it from here when I want to remove that. And so it's just basically to tidy it up. So that's why I've done that. So here I've done some more bit of fascia work. Like I said before, I am planning on getting one of these flip up can holders, so you can just mount it on here and then just flip it down, and then you can rest your can or your beer or whatever it is you're drinking, soft drinks, not that I drink alcohol, on here. And so that's going to be something that's going to be mounted again. So if somebody's operating here, they've got somewhere to put their drinks, so they can have a drink and just leave it there and not just rest it on top of the layout. The cradle is here, obviously, if they want to rest the controller that they're using, although, like I said, this layout is connected to the LNWI, which is the Wi-Fi. So you can actually use your phone if you prefer to use your phone. So there is the option to either use your phone or to use a controller like this, or the UT6, which I have. As I've gone over before, we've got the lighting panel there. And over there is a little hole there, sort of eye there, where I've basically stored the re-railer, and I've also installed a manual uncoupling hook that you can just use to uncouple the locomotives or wagons or whatever it may be. I'm also going to add a little something else there to be able to leave a track rubber and sort of little bits that an operator might need during the session. Like if there's a bit of dirty track, rather than asking me whether or not you've got rubber somewhere, if there's sort of rubbers laid around the track, around the layout for them to use, then if they've come across a piece of dirty track, they could just take the rubber and just quickly wipe it over, and that's that. So this is all basically just prep work, really, for the layout and for operating. So it's still getting there. So one of the other things I've been up to is I've been up to some more signage work. So we now have signage across here, which is the traction maintenance depot. There's also some signage at the front and some safety signage, and some of the Freightliner signage has also gone up. I haven't actually finished it all, but we're slowly getting there. I've got this one to fit as well, which is the Mildenhall Train Care Depot. So that one needs to go up. So, and then I've got some more signage here to be done, which I've sort of made up but haven't fitted. And then also I have some safety signage. Now, I bought a product from eBay called Rusty Rails, which was like the little step ladders. And he sent me this complimentary card on the back of it, which you can see I've kind of cut to pieces, but that was supposed to be the case. So it's Rusty Rails from eBay. And when I bought something from it, it came with these safety signs and these speed limit signs. So I've been slowly sort of utilising these signs that I got from him that came free. So thank you to him. And just sort of dotted them around the layout. And as you can see, there's just some dotted around the layout. But like I said, I've actually started to do that. So again, it's another little thing, moving the layout forward slightly. So ever so slowly we're getting there. And if we move over this way, we've also done some work over at Mildenhall Train Care Depot, which, as you can see, has some more safety signs. And here is my brand new addition to the fleet, but I'm not going to go into it into this video. This is a Dapol Class 73. And like I said, we won't be going into it in this video because I'll be doing another video. That'll probably be my next video because I'm actually waiting on a sound chip for it. That should be here anytime soon. Obviously being bank holiday, it's going to take a bit longer. But basically there is a sound chip going into that. It is actually DCC fitted and it is actually running. And there are certain things you do need to know if you are going to put a sound chip into this. And so I'm going to cover that in the next video, and I'll also compare it to my Coastal DCC sound chip and also compare it to my other 73s because this is my one and only Dapol 73. I did originally have many years ago at Behringer. That goes to show you how long these are. Back in 2016, I think it was when they released it. I did have a BR Blue version, but I didn't like that one. And so I got rid of that and I've ended up with this one. And this one is also a Dapol. But like I said, all my other ones are either Hornby or Lima. But like I said, we'll go into that properly in the next video. There is also some signage to go onto the platforms, which I haven't dealt with yet. This shunter here, I've been having some fun with this, just playing around with the track work along here as I've been sort of testing it and running it and seeing how it's going. So that's just this track work here. So as you can see, there are some wagons in that wagon works. So I've been playing around with the track work there to see how that is going and to see if I'm enjoying it and to see whether it is actually doing what I need it to do. Around the back here, I've also added some additional signage. So there's been some obviously here, not much though, but some here. And also at the back of the Mildenhall train care depot. And I've also starting to look at building up this corner here. So I've started to create a bit of a pavement there and an underpass, and that will take you to the station, which you can probably see it's got an underpass there. So that's the way to link the island platform to the main road for the passengers. And I'm also looking at making a start on that back piece over there. And there'll be another track. This track here off this point will come down to here. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you enjoyed the video. My plan is actually to run some trains this afternoon and to run some tomorrow because I really want to do some ballasting, but I want to do some testing as well. So I'm going to be testing some trains out and actually getting some trains running. So that's my plan for the next day and a half or so before I go back to work, because obviously tomorrow being bank holiday, I'm not actually working, thankfully. So that's what I'll be doing, just playing with trains. So until the next time, it's goodbye from Mildenhall Digitrax, and my name's Susanna and I live with trains. So goodbye, take care now.